Welcome back. Now, in 2021, the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade, through the Namibia Trade Forum, launched its second phase of the Buy Local, Grow Namibia campaign. In a bid to strengthen their reach, they will engage the informal sector with the intent to magnify the role they play in the economy. Joining us with more details on the matter is the Chief Executive Officer of Namibia Trade Forum, Stacey Pinto. Stacey, good evening and welcome to the Daily Roundup.
Good evening, Nina. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, you're moving into phase 2 of the Buy Local campaign. But let's go back and just recap on what this campaign is really about. The Buy Local, Grow Namibia campaign. I'm sure Namibians have all heard about it by now, but for those who haven't, what is this initiative about?
It's really just an initiative that wants to create a culture around buying local, but not only a culture, but the necessary knowledge and awareness around why that is important. And maybe just to take you back, the reason we set it up was because during COVID, I think you know, Namibia almost about imports all of what we consume. And so we weren't getting in as much product as we normally would or how quickly we would. And so obviously that created the case for looking at our own productive capacity. How well are we doing as a country? But before we started doing that, we realized that as a nation, we needed a bit more sensitization about why it's important to buy and support local, the jobs that it creates, the sustainable industry that it creates. And so phase 1 was really about helping create the culture and the understanding around why buying and growing local, growing Namibia is important. Phase 2 was really a bit more targeted at the producers because it wasn't enough to create the culture. We needed producers to understand, well, if you have a product, what is your journey to get into the retail stores?
Right.
What is your journey for market access? Have you thought about standards? Have you thought about packaging? Have you thought about your supply chain, your value chain? And so we did a countrywide capacity building workshop to help producers understand what it takes for them to be shelf ready, because it's not as good as, well, I have a jam and tomorrow it's in a store. There are things that you have to do to make sure that you comply and you can access that. And so those two initiatives really just push the envelope on how we're doing on procuring and buying local. I was speaking earlier on and now saying for the horticulture sector, for instance, we're sitting at about close to 80%. I'm sure you will attest if you go into the grocery stores, you will find Namibian products literally everywhere you're looking. Cosmetics is doing really well as well. I think a lot of women are finding ways of creating beauty and cosmetics products out of our own natural ingredients, your marula oils, you know, all of that stuff. So it's done really well from a producer perspective, but also just the retailer side, understanding that they need to be a bit more open to giving space for what's locally produced. We're still a long way to go, but I think that in the past 2 years, we've really made some good strides.
And how does zoning in the informal settlements now with your phase 2 plans fit into the scheme of things?
Right. So our first approach was really to look at somewhat formalized businesses. But a couple of months ago, a report came out that said that the informal sector is currently taking in about 56% of the Namibian workforce. And that's also linked to COVID, because in COVID, a lot of jobs were lost. And so instead of sitting at home, your ordinary person is thinking about, well, what business can I do and how can I help sustain my family? That has taken in a huge chunk of the workforce that was laid off. That is not a small number. It's huge for a country like Namibia. And it really shows the potential that lies in that sector. And so for us, it became really important to, number one, and that's why we have the engagement tomorrow, to understand how does that sector function? But most importantly, who are the key players that can come to the fore and try and create a better trading environment for the informal sector? And we're talking a wide range: city police, health and safety, labor, the private sector, all of whom will be there tomorrow in a bid to try and understand the sector better. But most importantly, and this is the role that the Namibia Trade Forum plays, is that we would be able to go to the right institution and knock on the door and look at targeted interventions. This is the role that you play in terms of creating a better trading environment for the informal sector. How can we work with you to make that possible? So it's really all in a bid to improve how much we consume local from an informal sector, but also from a formal sector.
What is you're having an engagement tomorrow with the informal sector, and you've mentioned the sectors that are, going to be there. What is your desired outcome, from this engagement tomorrow?
The desired outcome, as I mentioned, is really, number one, to create a platform where we get to understand how the informal sector functions and how at institutional and private sector level we can help them have a safer and a better trading environment. We have a really interesting entourage, if I can say. City police will be coming because obviously there's issues around safety and where the traders can trade, etc. So a bit more awareness on that. Minister of Industrialization and Trade will be present as well. Your MTC, your Namib breweries, so private and public sector, because the idea is through the Namibia Informal Sector Organization, they will talk us through how that sector functions and what the challenges are in a bid to have the panel that will be present try and start addressing those issues.
Stacey, just lastly, how does a campaign of this nature have direct impact on the economy at the end of the day?
In the quickest sense, I think it's an enabler more than anything. I don't know if you would find sort of connect A and B, but it's about creating that enabling environment that produces the growth that the country wants to see. I think you know our unemployment numbers are not looking great, and with us waiting for that wave to pass, what is their next immediate plan? It's entrepreneurship. It's figuring out what can I sell, what can I put together to make that extra money. What does that do? It sustains families, it creates jobs, and so the overall impact is not just about say 1 or 2 people. You're looking at 8 people in a household, and the ripple effect of that is so many more. So really, if we're able to create an environment that allows such entrepreneurs or informal sector traders to trade a bit more and safer, then it's a win-win for the entire country.
Stacey, Pinto, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for the support. We appreciate it.